Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to 8 Ball Sports. And a lot of different sports videos could have been made today. Tennessee hiring Philip Fulmer to be the new athletic director. Uh, there's some other sports news. Giancarlo Stanton, his representatives talking with the Giants and the Cardinals. The Pac-12 championship game is on currently, and I'm not watching it. But, I wanted to make this video. As you can tell by the title, this is about the Aledmys Diaz trade to the Toronto Blue Jays. And I am a Cardinals fan, and before anyone questions, because if they look at the past videos at all, you're going to see I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm a Nashville Predator fan. How does this all add up? What do I use as an excuse to not be a bandwagon? And before anyone comments that in that section down below, my dad was born and raised in Ohio. He grew up an Ohio State fan. My uncle actually works at Ohio State. He's an engineer. And my dad obviously now lives in Nashville with me, but he grew up an Ohio State fan, and I know you can say, well, you don't have to choose the team that your dad chose, but I was risen in an Ohio State family. I learned to hate Michigan and to love Ohio State, so that's why I'm an Ohio State fan. Obviously, I'm a Predators fan because I live in Nashville. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm around Tennessee Volunteers fans every single day, and that is one of the reasons for my very strong disliking of Tennessee. And then I'm also a Titans fan, as are the NFL team here in Tennessee. And there's no MLB team in Tennessee at all, or Nashville for that matter. And so basically, as a child, I was asked to choose between the Braves or the Cardinals. And at the time, 2006, 2007, was when I really started getting into baseball. And the Cardinals were just the more interesting team. The Braves had kind of slowed down. They still had Chipper Jones, but the Cardinals had Albert Pujols. They were making playoff runs. They had just won a World Series a couple years before. And obviously, I've been continuing to be a Cardinals fan since the 2011 World Series. I watch that at least once a month, it seems, and it still gives me goosebumps. David Freese is still one of my favorite players. I don't care what team he's on. For what he did for the Cardinals was amazing. But other than that, let's get that out of the way. It took 2.5 minutes, but I wanted to make sure I give my reasoning for why I am a Cardinals fan. But Aledmys Diaz was traded to the Toronto Blue Jays. This guy last year, a 300 hitter, an all-star, 5th in Rookie of the Year voting, could have possibly been first. I do believe he missed some time with some injuries. I'm not positive on that. I think he only played like 117 games last year, somewhere around there. Sorry. But I did not write that stat down. If you do see me looking down, it's because I have some things written down before I made this video. I looked at that. And so 5th in Rookie of the Year, a 3.5 WAR for any of those baseball fans that care about the very in-depth statistics. And then 2017, this year was definitely rough. He dropped about 40% in his batting average, or .40 in his batting average, down to 259. His on-base percentage dropped about 80. No, math. It's a tough subject. Yeah, his on-base percent dropped 80. He had 369 last year, and this year was at 290. So 79%, or not percent, I keep saying percent, but .79 drop. Excuse me. It's pretty big for on-base percentage. He only hit 7 home runs, but that's because he obviously spent most of the season, when looking back at it, in AAA. Also, quickly, I apologize for the lighting. My lamp that I normally have on over there is out. I think I need a new light bulb. I should be on that. That should be fixed soon, but the lighting does look pretty bad right now. 65 RBIs in 2016, 41 walks to 60 strikeouts. I did some math here, so stick with me. For every basically 1.4 strikeouts, so every 1.5 strikeouts was a walk. So three strikeouts would equal 2 walks according to that method, pretty much. Actually, a little bit less. It'd be like 2.8 strikeouts. If you can see what I tried to do there, it would make sense. But then this year was obviously rougher. I've already mentioned some of the stats. He was down in AAA for most of the season. I'm sorry, I have a cough. I'm not feeling 100%. But he only had 13 walks to 42 strikeouts, which obviously is not what you want. That is from 1.4 the 2016 season to 3.2 to this year, which is obviously a pretty big drop-off. So for over 3 strikeouts before he finally would get a walk on average. And the problem with him this season was that we sent him down to AAA, not rehabilitate, but to get better, to improve, get his groove back, and then he was coming back up, and he's supposed to be our everyday shortstop like we planned for after last season. I say we as the Cardinals organization, but he struggled down in the system as well in AAA. I don't have his stats for AAA, but I remember looking at him pretty constantly throughout the season to see when are we going to call him back up. As he finally found his swing, and he really just never did. He had similar stats to his MLB season as he did as he was in when he was in AAA. I was trying to make this video short, but it may end up being 10 minutes. So, the first thing for Aledmys Diaz, not a first thing, but another thing, Aledmys Diaz was not a great fielder. In 2016, he had a .961 fielding percentage, which basically means, again, hang with the math here, but for every one ball hit to him out of 20 would be an error. I mean, that's a .950 fielding percentage, so basically 20, he gets hit the ball 21 times, he's going to make an error one of those times, which is not terrible. You can stay in the major leagues with that, as the Jets put up 7 goals against the Golden Knights, but you can stay in the major leagues with a fielding percentage like that. I mean, there's worse fielders in the MLB by far, but he's not going to win any Gold Glove awards. I'm just putting that out there see what the Blue Jays are getting, see what they're getting. I think I'll mention it later, but I think it's a good trade for both sides. He's 27 years old. He's technically locked up until 2023. He can be arbitration eligible in the year 2020, and he's only getting paid $2 million a year. So that's not bad. I don't really know where the Blue Jays are going to use him. This is actually the last thing I was going to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it now. Who's going to start at shortstop for the Blue Jays? I would think Tulowitzki still starts, but if he struggles, I think that you could see Diaz moving into shortstop or possibly second base. I know he'd been working there. He'd been working at second and third down in the Cardinals organization because he realized how good Paul DeJong was doing for the Cardinals and realized he probably was not going to get his shortstop position back. So let's talk about what the Cardinals get for this trade. They get a prospect, J.B. Woodman. So J.B. Woodman, he was taken in the second round of the 2016 draft. He went to college at Ole Miss. He's 22 years old, but his birthday is December 13th, so he's basically 23 years old, or about to be 23 years old. He was in single A for most of the season. He started out, I think, in I looked at the stat, below single A. But now most of the year was in single A this year, and he hit .240, which is nothing fantastic, but a .320 on base percentage isn't terrible. 7 home runs, 45 RBIs. That was a stat that stood out to me. So I guess he is kind of a good. I guess he's good when he needs to drive in some runs. And then he had 10 errors in the outfield. Excuse me again. I'm sorry. So that's pretty much it for the stats. I don't know too much about him. That's kind of what you do when you do not a big name, but you do a major league player for a couple prospects, or just in this case one prospect. You don't really know too much about the prospects until they get called up to the majors. Obviously, there's ones that are really hyped up. I hadn't heard about this guy, so I don't think he's really hyped up. But second rounder last year in the draft, he had to at least show some potential for the Blue Jays to take him that high. So let me talk about both sides of this trade, how I feel like both sides came out. I mentioned earlier that I feel like both sides, this was a good trade for both teams. For the Blue Jays, Tulowitzki's getting older. There's no doubt about that. His game has gone down. And when is the time where you put Diaz in a shortstop? If he can pick up his play after a poor season last year. And it's a low risk, high reward. I wrote that down. I just said read, but I wrote that down because I feel like you're giving up a prospect that you don't really know. He's young, and you know he's talented. You took him in the second round, but you don't really know what he can pan out to be in the major leagues. So you're not giving a huge risk. Obviously, if he becomes the next Mike Trout, looking back, that'd be a bad trade. But right now, it's a low risk with a high upside. If Diaz can play the way he played in 2016, where he was an all-star, for goodness sakes, then you just got yourself an all-star shortstop for a guy that's playing in single-A ball right now. And then for the Cardinals, you already had Paul DeJong at shortstop. I mentioned him earlier. Sorry, ran out of space on my iPad. I feel like that happens every video now. But Paul DeJong is the shortstop for this team. We saw that last year. Great year. Second or third in the Rookie of the Year voting. So Diaz, this guy's the backup. Are you really willing to pay $2 million for a guy to sit the bench, or be in AAA for that matter, or possibly challenge for the third base spot with Jed Jerko? But we don't really know. Jerko had a pretty good year last year. So I don't hate the trade from that point. I know $2 million is not a huge amount, but for a bench player, I feel like that's a little unnecessary. And you already found your shortstop, hopefully, for the future. Although you felt like that last year with Diaz, and obviously that did not work out. So yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about this trade. The video went over a little over 10 minutes. So, but the first like 2 minutes of me just talking about why I'm not a bandwagon. So, if you guys did enjoy this video, please hit the thumbs up button. It really would mean a lot. And please subscribe to the channel. We just got over 50 subscribers. A couple weeks ago when I uploaded my Ohio State fan versus Iowa reaction or rant, I think I called it in the title. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. I do something pretty funny in it, and I'm sure you'll get a laugh out of it. And check out the other videos on my channel. Comment your opinion on the trade below. Who won the trade, if you feel like. Obviously, without seeing them play, you can't really tell who wins a trade, but who do you think will win the trade? And give me your reasons why. Have a nice day.